All right, so welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. If you're here, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. All right. If you don't understand anything that I'm about to put in this video, put your question in the comments as soon as you hear it, right? As soon as you hear something that don't really gel, don't really make sense, put your question in the comments, right? I'm gonna check your comments. I might even make a follow-up video just based on your question. All right. Also, share this video with somebody. Now, this is Facebook math. Why am I calling this Facebook math? Because somebody tagged me in a post that had this question. It said negative 5 squared plus 25 equals what? And it's multiple choice. Choice A is 0. Choice B is 50. Now, a lot of people are getting 0. A lot of people are getting 50. I'm going to tell you what they should be getting. All right. Now, let's break this down. The confusion comes from this right here. Whenever you have a negative sign and an exponent, the confusion comes from understanding what you should do when you have a negative sign and an exponent. Whenever you see a negative sign and an exponent, what you want to do is expand this, right, out to its formal representation. Because think about this. Whenever you see an exponent and a negative sign, that's kind of like slang. That's like a shorthand way of representing something in mathematics, right? So ask yourself, what would be the long form way to say this? Negative 5 squared. The negative sign represents a negative 1 that's being multiplied by the base 5. So you got negative 1 times 5 to the second power. Now I could expand this out and write this 5 squared as 5 times 5, but we don't need to do all that, right? Once we rewrite this like that, then we apply the order of operations. Now, what does the order of operations dictate to us to do? Should we multiply first or should we use the exponent first? Or what we call sometimes exponentiate. Should we exponentiate first or do multiplication first? Pause for a minute and think about that, right? We deal with the exponent first. Notice also, there are no parentheses in here, right? The negative 5 is not in parentheses with an exponent outside. If the negative 5 was in parentheses with the exponent outside, then this would be a different situation. But because there's an absence of parentheses, this equates to this. All right. So if this equates to this, then that's going to be negative 1 times 25, not 10. Don't make that mistake. 5 to the second power is not equivalent to 5 times 2. It's 5 times 5. Because again, this is like slang. 5 squared or 5 to the second power is like slang. It enables us to, like, in a quick way, express an idea to an audience, right? Instead of saying 5 times 5, we say 5 squared. And the exponent 2 tells us that if this was expanded or an expanded form, how many 5s will be in there? How many 5s will be in that expression? There will be 2 5s, or 5 times 5, right? If this was a 3, that would mean that in an expanded form, there will be 3 5s, 5 times 5 times 5. If it was a 4, that means that this will be 5 to the fourth power, or 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, and so on and so forth. All right. So now we got negative 1 times 25. It's only one operation left to do. So we left with negative 25. So now all of this part simplifies to just negative 25. So if that simplifies to negative 25, and then we add 25, negative 25 plus 25 is 0. So the correct answer is 0. Now, a lot of people were getting positive 50. This is why. Because they were interpreting this. It's kind of like when you're having a conversation with somebody. If you misinterpret what they're saying, you're not gonna catch their message, right? Just like if a person is triggered by something somebody says, because what somebody said might remind them of a situation they was in a previous relationship where somebody was trying to cause them harm. Now they triggered. Now all of a sudden you're not even hearing what the person is actually trying to communicate to you, right? So if you see this and you immediately believe or think that it is equivalent to this, that's the first mistake, right? Because this ain't this. There are no parentheses here. All right. This would be different from this because in this situation, you would have negative 5 times negative 5, right? Because the exponent applies to the negative sign also, which is really a negative 1, right? So really you squaring the negative 1. So really we're doing negative 1 times negative 1, which becomes positive 1 because the negative times a negative is a positive. And we're doing 5 times 5. which is positive 25. So positive 1 times positive 25 would give me positive 25. Or we could set it up like this and just have negative 5 times negative 5, which is also positive 25. So if you misinterpret the negative 5 squared as the quantity of negative 5 squared or raised to the second power, that's going to give you positive 25. And if you get positive 25, then when you add the positive 25 plus the other positive 25, you're going to end up with positive 50, which is not the correct answer because, again, where did that incorrect answer come from? It came from misinterpreting this, as if there were parentheses around the negative 5. That's the issue. And it's a common mistake. So if you made this mistake, don't feel bad, but just remember that this should be represented this way, not this way. All right. That's one of the little idiosyncrasies of order of operations problems. And that's why the person that made the meme that this question was on, that's why they created it, because they knew some people was gonna like misinterpret this for this. They knew that was gonna happen, right? And it creates an interesting conversation and it makes us think. All right. But if you did that incorrectly, just know, again, whenever you see a negative sign and an exponent, you know what to do, right? The negative sign represents a negative 1 being multiplied by the base, and that exponent only applies to this 5. This exponent does not apply to that negative 1, right? If there were parentheses around the negative 5, then the exponent would apply to everything, the negative 1 and the 5, right? But here, then once you set it up like this, now you just sit back and be like, all right, well, what's the order of operations? All right, what's the order of operations? So now you do the 5 squared, that's going to give you 25, and then the negative 1 times the 25 is going to give you the negative 25, and then you just keep it moving. All right, so learn the rules, memorize the rules, and pass them on to somebody else. All right, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Tell somebody about what we're doing over here. Share the video with somebody, at least one person. Throw this video in your group chats and all that, because people need to know this. Parents need to know this, because parents have children and grandparents have grandchildren that's coming home. The favorite uncles and the favorite aunties got nieces and nephews that's coming home with these homework type problems. And we need to be, as a community, as adults, we need to be able to help our kids with this. We need to be able to help the youth out so they can understand this, but we got to know it first. So share this video so people will know what to do. All right. And what else I wanted to say? If you got any questions, still got questions, throw your questions in the comment section. All right. See y'all later. Peace.